Welcome to yet another edition of the Stats and Stacks podcast, where today we go over UFC Vegas 102, Cannonier versus Rodrigues. First things first, make sure you smash that like button, hit subscribe, give a follow over on Twitter, over on Instagram, over on Blue Sky, or wherever their social media. There's the Stats and Stacks podcast. If you could show support, awesome. If you don't want to, I get it because we got absolutely fucking killed again last week. Two bad weeks in a row. It is what it is. Usually do well on pay-per-view cards. Not over and not down under. Australia fucked us. A lot of just Kevin Doucette was awful. Jake Matthews came through. Gabriel Santos came through. And Rong Zhu came through. That was nice. I think I got the rest of the card wrong. Like it was pretty bad. I had DDP, but I had DDP by knockout. So I don't know, man. This whole fight, it was just a really, really bad time. I was luckily at a wedding and didn't have to panic bet anything. Tatiana Suarez killed us. It was just a really bad night. Looking to recover with a greasy fight night card over at the Apex. Nothing will get you right like an Apex card, right? With 40-year-old people from Alaska FC headlining, what could go wrong? So just looking to switch things up, actually get a positive week and a lot of stuff going on this week personally. So we're just going to kind of fly through this card. I always say sometimes I have to do it fast and it ends up still being an hour, but it is what it is. Let's just go ahead and jump into the very first fight of the night. We are looking at Julia Avila at plus 375. Put up against Jacqueline Calvacanti at minus 550. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 400. Under 2.5 at plus 275. Let's start with Jacqueline Calvacanti because she's someone that we have locked in the past a few times. And she came through for us. She's 27 years old. So she's in her prime. She has really good striking, throws a ton of volume, has 90% takedown defense. Her jiu-jitsu is not great, but it's really hard to get her down to the ground. She has good cardio to go with that, good striking and volume. Her level of competition could be better, fighting Nora Canoli twice and Faraz Ziam and Josiane and Nunez. I wish she fought better people. But it is what it is. She pressures forward with volume. That's what she does. She strikes, she throws decently hard, not enough to really put you out, but she can rock you from time to time. But she throws a ton of volume, a ton of volume, a ton of volume, and it's very hard to get her down to the ground. On the other side, we have Julia Avila, who predominantly likes to strike as well. Only difference is she's not in her prime. She is 36 years old. She is okay striking, but it's a little overrated. Her jiu-jitsu's okay. It's probably better than Cavalcanti's, but she doesn't really wrestle too much. She herself has 50% takedown defense, so she prefers to kind of put the paws on you, as her name is, what is it, something Panda? I don't even remember. Raging Panda. So she's trying to put those paws on you. The problem is she was coming off a big break after her pregnancy, which is good. Congratulations on becoming a mom. And then she tore her ACL. So she's effectively about to have her second fight in like 4 or 5 years. That obviously didn't work out for Tatiana Suarez last time. It hasn't been working out for Jamal Hill. All these people that are coming back from debilitating injuries just seem to lose their next fight back. And this could be no different in a predominantly striking affair. Avila throws a little lower volume than usual. She hits harder than Cavalcante, but she throws like half as many strikes. So in a fight that should take place 90% on the feet, uh, I'll take the girl that throws twice as much and pressures forward, looking better optically. Cavalcanti, again, because she doesn't throw super hard, she goes through a lot of split decisions. The Nunez fight was a split decision. The Nora Canoli fight was split decision. But she keeps fighting people in their home countries. This one's just going to be in the Apex, and she is undefeated. I'll trust her again. So the pick is going to be Cavalcanti. The bet's going to be Cavalcanti. Next fight of the night is just as greasy. This reminds you we're in the Apex because you have Walter Walker as a minus 225 favorite. How the hell is he a favorite? Because he's fighting our favorite, Don Tail Mays, at plus 185. Over 2.5 minus 170. Under 2.5 at plus 130. Let's start with Johnny Walker's little brother and Walter. Think of Johnny Walker and then what the opposite of Johnny Walker is, and that's what this guy is. Outside of his size, he's big like Johnny. He's 27 years old. He is not a striker. He can't strike at all. He is a wrestler. His jiu-jitsu's okay. And that's where the positives stop. His striking's terrible. His cardio is god awful. We've seen him gas out multiple occasions. His volume is god awful. He's very, very hittable when he's on the feet, and he just kind of lay and praise you. He doesn't really throw any strikes. He's one of these guys that gets the takedown, and you are petrified it's going to get stood up because he really doesn't do anything. He doesn't pass. He doesn't work. He doesn't do anything. He just sits on top of you with all 260 pounds of him. On the other side, we have Dontel Mays, who is a striker only. He is 33 years old, have a 3-inch reach advantage in this matchup, and he has good striking. That is good. He will absolutely piece up Walter Walker on the feet. The problem is he's rocking a 58% takedown defense, which isn't good going against a wrestler. His jiu-jitsu is god awful. Walter Walker's jiu-jitsu is not good, but it's light years ahead of Dontel Mays. Dontel Mays got taken down by Shamil Gaziev and couldn't even get up. He gave up 12 minutes of control time to Shamil Gaziev, a volleyball player. So that's very concerning. Dontel Mays, you would hope, could take advantage of Walker's terrible, terrible cardio, but he can't because he has bad cardio himself. Sorry, my computer is going absolutely haywire. He has bad cardio himself. It's just the name of the game is get up, and he doesn't have any. Walker will eventually get that takedown, and once he does, that's the end of the round. So it's just a matter of when, not if, when Walker goes for it. And if he gets it, it's game over. So I don't hate the over here at 2.5, but it's minus 170. I don't really want to touch that either. I think it's going to be Walker. I guess the over is the better odds, but um, yeah, I'll just go ahead and I'll take Walker, or I'll take Walker by decision. It's probably the most likely route here. Pick is Walker, bet is Walker, or if you want to touch that over, that's perfectly fine too. Next fight of the night, we have Vince Morales at plus 155 going against Elijah Smith at 185. Over 2.5 is minus 300. Under 2.5 is plus 210. Let's start with Vince Morales and his familiar role as a betting underdog. Vince Morales has a high school wrestling pedigree, but he very seldomly used it in his first go around. When he got cut and got sent to the regional scene, and since coming back, all of a sudden he is a wrestler, and he's a big jiu-jitsu practitioner. Getting Peruvian neckties over Hunter Azure and getting a whole bunch of rear naked chokes and Darce chokes. He became a submission machine in the last few years. He's 34 years old, has good BJJ. His losses are very good. He lost to Miles Johns. He lost to Chris Gutierrez. He's losing to ranked fighters in the division. His striking's not terrible itself. He's very, very durable, hard to put away. The problem with him is that he's very hittable. Although he's durable and he can eat the shots, he takes way too many of them. And he's rocking a 65% takedown defense. That is not something I like to see at all. Especially if he's going against anyone that has any semblance of a wrestling game, which is Elijah Smith. And you're probably thinking, why the fuck is this newcomer, this kid coming from Dana White Contender Series, such a big favorite? Because he's some Contender Series fighters. You're like, oh God, he just got a contract just because he won, and he doesn't really belong here. And then there's other ones that are actual prospects, and I think Smith is an actual prospect. Things I don't like is that he's 22 years old and he does slow down in his fights even at a young age, so that's very concerning. But there's a lot of stuff to like. First and foremost, he's been around the game for a while. I'm not concerned as much about him coming in and getting too starry-eyed and bright-eyed fighting in the UFC because his father was in the UFC. His father had quite a few fights in the UFC, was in the Ultimate Fighter twice, so he is used to being around this atmosphere. He has good striking. He has been wrestling his entire life. He has good wrestling. His jiu-jitsu is decent. He's very quick and very explosive. He's just essentially an athlete. I like the guy a lot. I think he's a very, very promising guy. So he has a good protege, or he has a good teacher. He has all the physical tools. And he has all the skill in the world. It's just a matter of him putting it together at 22 years old. I don't like trusting young kids, but the fact that he's been around this for a while does give me a little more confidence. The fact that Morales is a punching bag gives me a little more confidence. And the fact that if he needs to, he can just get a takedown gives me a little confidence. I'm a little scared of the sub prop because he does gas out. So if he gets tired in round three, Morales could snatch that neck. I don't like that. But I think he'll have 15 minutes in. Morales doesn't really push a pace. I think he'll be perfectly fine. So the pick is going to be Elijah Smith. The bet is going to be Elijah Smith at that line. Next fight of the night. Talk about prospects. We have Dana White Contender Series alum Gabriel Bonfim at minus 220, going up against Chaos Williams at plus 180. Over under set at 1.5. Over 1.5 is minus 160. Under 1.5 is plus 125. Let's start with Gabriel Bonfim, the return of the Bonfim Bros. Let's see here. Let's pull this up. Give me 1 second. Theme's a little bit of an enigma here. He's good everywhere. He's 27 years old. He's in his prime. He has a shiny 16-1 record. He has good striking. He has good jujitsu. He has okay wrestling. He throws a ton of volume. He has pretty decent power. You would think he's the full package. It's just he's missing the most and one of the most important things you need to be a good MMA fighter. The two most important things are cardio and durability, and his cardio is ass. In 17 career fights, he's gone to decision one time. Otherwise, he's a really quick first round finisher. And that's great. That's good. He's really talented. But when you get higher up, it's going to be a lot harder to just put guys away real easily. He ran into Nicholas Dolby. It was an issue. He ran into Angelusa. It was an issue. And I don't know if Chaos Williams is any better or worse than Dolby or Angelusa, to be honest with you. I think he might be. Honestly, it might be a little better. This is a tough matchup for him. I liked Bonfim against Renat Fakhrdimov because Renat was very one-dimensional and plays into Gabriel's wheelhouse. Chaos Williams doesn't. Chaos Williams is taking this fight on short notice, but he's definitely the harder matchup here for Bonfim. Williams is 30 years old, so he's just about in his prime as well. He's going to have a 4.5 inch reach advantage in this matchup. He probably has the better striking. He hits just as hard. He throws a ton of volume as well. He's rocking an 80% takedown defense. We have no really idea about his jiu-jitsu. He has one guillotine win on his record. I watched it. I could have pulled off that guillotine. Otherwise, I mean, Bonfim's best route is probably taking him down and trying to sub him because I don't know how good his jiu-jitsu is, to be honest with you. But for a big, muscly, durable guy, he has pretty decent cardio. He can go a hard 15 minutes. So on the feet, I think it's pretty 50-50, but I'll give the slight edge to Chaos. On the mat, I'll definitely give the edge to Bonfim, and then it turns into this wrestling. The okay wrestling of Bonfim against the 80% takedown defense of Chaos Williams. What's going to give? I'm not too sure. But I know at these odds with Chaos at plus 180, that's the only way to go. So the pick is going to be Chaos Williams. The bet's going to end up being Chaos Williams, one of my favorite dogs of the night. Next fight of the night, we have Rafael Estevam at minus 400 making his return against Jesus Santos Aguilar at plus 300. Over under set at 2.5. Over and under 2.5 are both a straight pick 'em at minus 115. And let's start with this bitch ass Jesus Aguilar because he is the bane of my existence. I can't figure this guy out. He's 28 years old. He sucks. The end of story. His striking's not great. It's okay, but he's very pillow fisted. His jujitsu's not good. He gets subbed all the time. But most of his wins are by submission. His cardio's good. I'll give him that. But he's really tiny for the weight class, yet he missed weight in his last fight. He throws no volume whatsoever, yet he's winning split decisions. I don't know. He's absolutely horrible, but he keeps winning. It's just guillotine, guillotine, guillotine. The man has 11 wins, and I think 9 of them are by guillotine. It's insane. Like it makes zero sense. You think if you're facing him, all you do is train guillotine, but these guys just aren't figuring it out. I mean, He has two career losses. They're both by sub. So you're thinking maybe he's not that good of a jiu-jitsu practitioner. No, man. A guillotine, one rear naked choke. Okay. Split decision. Guillotine two, guillotine three, guillotine four, unanimous decision. Guillotine five, guillotines. He has six guillotines on his record. More than half of his wins are via guillotine. It's insane. I just don't understand. In his UFC career, I bet Shannon Ross. Why? Because Shannon Ross was the better striker. He's just as good on the ground. He's the better wrestler. He is just as good of cardio. He is the better fighter. The problem is Shannon Ross has the world's worst chin, but Jesus can't bust a grape. You know what he can bust? Shannon Ross's chin gets his first career knockout. And I said, damn, Jesus got me. Very next fight, he fought Matus Mendoka. Mendonca is someone that used to fight at 135. He's fighting itty bitty Jesus with zero volume whatsoever, 36% takedown defense. Mendonca's going to go in and rep shop on this guy. And you know what? Mendonca did. He outstruck him. He got four takedowns in the matchup, but the matchup was UFC Noche. And what is Jesus? He's Mexican, and he gets a split decision win. Absolute robbery. So Jesus fucks me for the second time in a row. And then we have this bitch ass Stuart Nicole. And I'm like, you know what? Stuart Nicole cannot strike to save his life, but he doesn't try to. He goes out there and he wrestles and he grapples, and he's a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu black belt. He's going to be perfectly fine. You're not going to guillotine a black belt. What does he do? Sticks his head in a choke, gets guillotined in the first round. This motherfucker Jesus Aguilar got me again. I don't know what to do with this dude. He's not good. He is one of the worst UFC flyweights I've ever seen in my life, and he is 4-1 in the promotion. 5-1 if you include contender series. So I don't know what he's going to bust out this time. Rafael is just like Stuart Nickel. Rafael is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He trains at Nova União, over where like Jose Aldo trains. 7-inch reach advantage if he decides he wants to strike, but I very seldomly see him strike. He likes to wrestle and he likes to grapple. He likes to get submissions or he likes to get decisions. Watch his weigh-in because he missed weight in his last fight too, because he's massive. He is huge. Jesus, little itty bitty guy. He should be able to toss him around everywhere. He has decent cardio on the regional scene, but he did gas out in his very first fight against Charles Johnson. But Charles Johnson does that to everyone. I mean, his nickname is Energy, for God's sake. He gasses out absolutely everybody. This kid is 12-0, has never tasted defeat. So he has probably a striking advantage. He definitely has a wrestling advantage. He definitely has a jiu-jitsu advantage. How the actual fuck is Jesus going to screw me over this time? I don't know, but he keeps finding ways. I don't like that Esteban has not fought in like 18 months. I don't know if he's been hurt or what happened to him, but it's been a year and a half since his UFC debut. I don't know. I want to just pound Raphael and put him in every single parlay, but this motherfucker Jesus Aguilar gets me. I don't understand it. I'll never understand it, but I ain't scared, bitch. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna pick Raphael. I'm gonna bet Raphael. Someone's got to get the job done. But if his bitch ass gets guillotined, I swear to fucking God, I don't even know what I'll do. Next fight of the night, we have Jared Flash Gordon going up against Mash Robin Ruzaboev. I have no odds and I have no over under because this fight was added just a few hours ago. So let's just start with Flash Gordon. He's old as shit. He's 36. And he is the definition of a generalist. He has okay striking. He's a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu brown belt. He's okay on the ground. He has okay wrestling. He's fought a pretty decent level of competition. He does nothing wrong. He does nothing great. What I can tell you is that he's looked good with cardio and he's looked bad at cardio. You never know what version you're getting. He's been a little chinny, but his chin has looked better at 155 since moving up a weight class. So he kind of attributes his bad cardio and chin to cutting too much weight. And he might have a point. He hasn't been finished in a while. I think the last time he was finished was Grant Dawson back 3 years ago. And Grant Dawson is a motherfucker. And that's just with a few seconds left in the fight. So the guy is very, very hard to finish all of a sudden. Last time he got knocked out was against our buddy Charles Oliveira in 2019. So, yeah, he used to have a bad chin in cardio, but it's looking much better. I think he did need to go up a weight class. I think he's right. It did help him. On the other side, we have Ruzaboev, and if that name sounds familiar, it's because this is the little brother of UFC veteran Nursultan Ruzaboev. And you know what? If you've ever seen um, Nursultan, Tapology has a picture of Nursultan up here initially. Okay, this is his brother. This is the right one. If you ever seen Nursultan Rosaboa fight, you've seen his brother fight because they're the exact same thing. They have pretty decent jujitsu, a very padded record, a horrible takedown defense. Their striking is not good, but he hits decently hard. He swings for the bleachers, a ton of early finishes, but terrible, terrible, terrible cardio. And again, that padded record, you see 20-4, you think he's nasty. He's not. He fights like 5 times a year, and all these guys he's fighting, I mean, 8-9, 12-17. He fought at 20-11. Good for him. 16-14, 2-0. This man had 20 career fights. He's fighting someone that's 2-0. He's fighting someone that's 0-2, 0-0. He fought at 11-2, but he lost. 22-22, 3-1. I'm not going to go through all of them, but good lord, he fought someone that's 15-4. That was good, and he lost. But don't worry, he beat the 0-7, 0-0, and literally 5 straight fights of 0-0. There was a 1-0 sprinkled in there. So yeah, dude fights the lowest of low. He's taking this fight on like 4 days' notice. He shouldn't win this fight. I'll go ahead and I'll pick Jared Gordon, but I think Jared Gordon at 36 years old is due to get chin checked again. And I could see it being Rosenbauer, to be honest with you. We'll wait for the odds. It might end up being a dog or pass. Or I might just take the under. Or a fight doesn't go the distance is probably the safest bet there. Speaking of scary fights, we have Angela Overkill Hill minus 110, Ketlin Souza minus 110. Straight pick 'em, homie. Over 2.5 minus 550, under 2.5. Jesus, under 2.5 plus 375. The over under is set that way because of Angela Overkill Hill. She goes to split decision every single fight. She's 40 years young. And I say young because she did start her career pretty late. Not as many miles as most 40-year-olds, but Father Time is also undefeated. She's 40. She has a inch and a half reach advantage here, which is nice because this is going to be a striking affair. She's fought a great level of competition, a lot of former champs, title challengers, current champs, things like that. Good striking, good jiu-jitsu, great volume, very durable, really, really good cardio. Her wrestling isn't great, and that's how you used to expose her, but it has been getting better as of late, as has her jujitsu. She's been vocal about wanting to be more aggressive in finishing fights. It's very hard to finish someone like Tabitha Ricci or Denise Gomes or Mackenzie Dern. But if you give her, in her little aggressive streak, she did finally get a finish against Luana Pinheiro. More of a war of attrition, and then she gassed her out and then tapped her out. But she could potentially do the same to Souza. Souza's 29 years old in her prime. She also is very good striking and would prefer this fight to take place on the feet. She throws a ton of volume herself. She probably hits harder than Angela Hill, but her jiu-jitsu is not great. I will give Angela the advantage there. Her cardio's okay. She'll slow down in the third round. She's fine the first and second, but the third round, she gets a little tired. She loves to pressure forward, but Angela's fine fighting backwards, and her wrestling isn't exactly the greatest. So I think this is a stand-up war between two girls that throw a ton of volume. I think Souza throws a little harder, but I think Hill throws a little more and has better cardio. So this honestly looks like split decision written all over it, especially in the apex. But you're not going to get a good line on either one of them via split because Angela always gets a split. I'll go ahead and I'll pick Angela. It's a straight pick 'em. You might as well just pick a side, take the money line, pick Angela. I'll ultimately bet Angela, but I might get crazy and I might take a look at that third round submission. Ketlin Souza has been finished multiple times, and two of them have been by submission. One of them was really early. They were both really early. But she did get finished because she got a little tired against Ariana Carnelosi in the third round. So be cognizant of that. The pick is Hill. The bet's going to be Hill. I might take a look at that by sub in round 3. Next fight of the night, we have another debuting Dana White Contender Series fighter in Jose Delgado at minus 295, going up against Connor Matthews, another Dana White Contender Series alum at plus 255. Over 1.5 is minus 180, under 1.5 is plus 150. Let's start with Connor Matthews. Why is he such a dog? Because he's a walking punching bag. He does not believe in striking defense. He thoroughly enjoys blocking punches with his face. He is 32 years old. He trains at Boston Cartel, so he's over there training with Rob Font and with Calvin Cater, who's on this card. He'll sprinkle in takedowns from time to time, but he's not the world's greatest wrestler. In fact, he has a 50% takedown defense himself. He has good offensive striking. It's just they call it taking pictures. Like after he connects with one of his combos, he just kind of freezes, and then he's really easy to counter. And that's a little bit of an issue there with how hittable he is. He can be rocked. I've seen him rocked on multiple occasions. The last time he fought someone like Delgado, that's a tall, lanky striker, he did wrestle him a ton. He got 7 takedowns, but that guy didn't know what a sprawl was. So I don't know if it's going to be that easy. He talks about how he loves to triangle people from anywhere. Nice. His jujitsu's okay, but it's nothing to write home about. Overall, he throws pretty decent volume, and his cardio. He does slow down in the third round. And again, to him, head movement is optional. Very concerning. On the other side, we have Delgado. He's a Dana White Contender Series guy at minus 300. He's only 26 years old. This is something I like to fade. Instead, I'm going to go all in on this guy because I think this guy is the truth. Again, this guy is an actual prospect. He came in the Contender Series on short notice, fought the champion over at Uriah Faber, what is that, AF1, AFC1 combat, whatever it's called, and went out there and dominated and had the better cardio taking the fight on a week's notice. He's 26 years old. He has a 2 inch reach advantage, which is nice. And I think the best part about this kid is that he's entering his prime as Benson Henderson's protege. Benson Henderson, like, literally has given this guy money to succeed in his career, and he trains at an MMA lab. An MMA lab is an okay gym, but it is an absolute powerhouse for lightweights. 135 in particular. Sean, if you've heard of these names, let me know. Have you heard of Sean O'Malley? Have you heard of Kyler Phillips? Have you heard of Marcus McGee? All these guys are absolutely crushing it. Casey Kenny, all these guys are nasty, and they're all at 135 at the MMA lab. Jose Delgado is a 145-pound fighter who used to fight at 135. So these are the guys he's training with every single day. Iron sharpens iron. He has good cardio. He has okay jujitsu. He will mix and take downs himself. He's not really a wrestler, but he will mix it in, just like Matthews. He throws a ton of volume. He does believe in striking defense. And when you take him down, he's very, very wiry. Like he is not one you can just take down and hold down. He's a little hittable for my liking. But that cardio, that durability, he's Mexican. He's going to be hard to knock out. He's the better striker. He's the longer striker. He's just as good of a wrestler. He's just as good on the ground. But his cardio is much better and he throws more. So I think he's going to absolutely dominate. And he has a good guy in his corner. Benson is in his corner every single fight. So he has a former champion in his corner. So I think he'll be perfectly fine with the bright lights of the UFC Apex. Pick is going to be Delgado. Bet it's going to be Delgado by murder, but I'll just pick Delgado money line. Parlay him up. Next fight of the night, we have Andre Petrowski plus 195 going up against Rodolfo Black Belt Hunter Vieira at minus 240. Over 2.5 minus 105, under 2.5 minus 125. Let's start with the Black Belt Hunter. The Black Belt Hunter is not young. He's 35 years old. He has world class jiu-jitsu. His wrestling, though, could be better. It's okay. It's not good. It's not bad. It's serviceable. His striking's god awful. He's low key chinny. He gets rocked in a lot of fights. His cardio's awful, but it has been looking better as of late. He's definitely working on it. Um, all of his wins are arm triangles and rear naked chokes. Like all of his submissions, I should say. He's not really doing anything off his back at all. I don't know if he has really good transitions. You don't really see him on his back much, to be honest with you. That's part of the reason. He has 100% takedown defense. But again, we saw Fluffy on top of him, and he got subbed. Granted, that was more of because he was tired, but it's just interesting because he's fighting a wrestler here. He's very hittable when he's on the feet. He does back up. He does not give good optics when he gets hit. He gets hit all the fucking time, and he does not enjoy it at all. On the other side, we have Petrowski, who's just as chinny. He's 33 years old. He has good wrestling. He's a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu black belt, training with like Sean Brady, Joe Pfeiffer, and those boys at Henzo Gracie. So he's good jujitsu, but his striking is just as bad. He's even more chinny. Again, he's the one that infamously got knocked out by Jacob Malkoon's hip. His cardio is just as bad as Vieira. Guesses out in every fight. We've seen him on his back before. He didn't get subbed like Vieira, but he did play guard against GM3 and just wanted to stay safe down there. But he's hard to take down. He is 80% takedown defense. And Vieira, who doesn't like to get hit and marches backwards, although Petrowski shouldn't be getting hit because he can't take it, he will march forward. What I think we saw is the game plan he had against GM3 to strike with him. He had the same thing with Jacob Malkoon. It was strike with him, be a jab fest, and then with like a minute left, he will take you down to solidify the round. I think it's going to be a close jabbing fest. They both love to jab, and they're just going to jab each other's very chinny chins. If they survive that round, Petrowski's going to try to shoot a takedown with 1 minute left. If Vieira gets on top of Petrowski, it's some serious trouble. If Petrowski gets on top of Vieira, I don't know. I have no idea what's going to happen. I think this is a 50-50 fight, and Petrowski is a plus 195 favorite. Makes no sense. I'm going to take the dog and go dog hunting. The pick is going to be Andre Petrowski. The bet's going to be Andre Petrowski. Next fight of the night, we have the older Bonfim bro, Ismail Bonfim at minus 200, going against Nazim Sadikov at plus 170, over 2.5 minus 175, under 2.5 plus 135. Let's start with Bonfim as we did before. He's 29 years old. And he's quick as shit. Very, very fast hands. He has a 2-inch reach advantage, which surprised me. He has good striking. He has good jujitsu. He has okay wrestling. Very high volume. He'll mix in a takedown here and there. Very similar to Gabriel Bonfim. I just think Gabriel's better of a better jujitsu practitioner. But he'll march forward. He has good cardio, unlike his brother. Um, and his losses, he has 4 career losses, but they're to Benoit Saint Denis, they're to Adrian Ramos, or the guy that knocked out Mighty Mouse. They're to Hanato Moicano. Like they're to really accredited fighters, and everyone thinks Gabriel's the better of the two. I think his older brother Ismail may be better, to be honest with you. He just he what he gives up in jujitsu ability, he gets back in cardio, and that's a little more important to me. On the other side, we have Nazim Sadikov. He's 30 years old. He's known as being a main training partner with Marab and Aljo and them over at Longo MMA. He has good striking. All of them are good wrestlers. He's a good striker and prefers to strike. He hasn't fought in a year and a half. I don't know what he's been doing ever since that Slavikov's draw. He has pretty decent power. He does train there. He does have good jujitsu and okay wrestling. Like he knows what's going on there, even though he prefers to strike. He's a little hittable. That's because he loves to get into wars. He could slow down a touch in some of his fights. I've seen it twice. He loves to pressure forward. His volume's pretty decent. Overall, 75% takedown defense, and he'll sprinkle in takedowns. Like he's a really good value. Um, he's a really good fighter. I really think of that Evan Elder fight. Evan Elder is a quick boxer that can sprinkle in takedowns. That's exactly what Bonfim is. And Evan Elder was winning that fight until the cut happened, and Nazim ended up winning a cut stoppage. But he was on his way to losing. And I think Bonfim's just a Brazilian version of Evan Elder. So at that point, I'll go ahead and I'll pick Bonfim. Do I like these odds? No, not at all. I think Nazim's very live, and plus 170 definitely has my attention. I'm scared to pull the trigger. I'm still going to pick Bonfim, but I'm going to watch weigh-ins because Bonfim has missed weight before. He's traveling across the world, whereas Nazim is not. If Gabriel looks bad, I think I'm going to go ahead and I'll bet Nazim, but for right now, I'm going to pick Gabriel, and I'll throw him. I can't even throw him in a parlay. I'll just bet minus 200. Um, if he looks okay on the scales. So this one is dependent on the scale. Bad weight cut for Bonfim. I'm taking the dog and Nazim. Good weight cut for Bonfim. I'll go ahead and I'll bet Gabriel. Next fight of the night. Speaking of bad weight cuts, we have Dylan Budka, who just missed weight in his last fight at plus 290, going against Edmund Shabazian at minus 390, over 2.5 plus 115, under 2.5 minus 145. Let's start with the mindless Hulk and Dylan Budka, former opponent of Andre Petrowski, who's on this card. Just lost to him in his last fight and looked absolutely horrible. I know he's known as a wrestler. He grew up wrestling in the Cleveland area. He is 25 years old. He's super young. His striking looked a little better in his last fight, to be honest with you, but he can get backed up. His wrestling is on paper good, but he does a lot of clinch work. He does a lot of like what Neil Magny does, where he shoots takedowns, but just to push you up against the cage, a kind of dirty box. Shamil Gaziev does that. Martin Budai does that. They if they get the takedown, awesome, but they're really just shooting it to get a hold of you and then just dirty box. His cardio's bad. His jujitsu is not great. He himself doesn't has 76% takedown defense, which is fine. Again, his striking did look improved, but that was against Andre Petrowski, so it is what it is. And when he does throw, he doesn't throw a lot of volume. He's very, very low volume. He just likes to sit there and clinch, and he gets tired doing so. So I don't think he's the world's greatest fighter. I think he's inevitably going to get cut, especially if he loses here to Edmund Shabazian, because Edmund Shabazian is a Dana White Contender Series prospect, but a busted one. He's still only 27 years old, which is insane. He's been in the UFC, I feel like, as long as I've been watching it, which it's not true, but I haven't watched since like '05, but that's how long it feels like he's been in here. I think he was 20 or 21 when he first made it. So he's been in the UFC for 6 or 7 years. He is Ronda Rousey's protege. He has good striking. He has a ton of power, sneaky good jujitsu, sneaky good wrestling. He's trained everywhere. He's trained over with Zahabi. He's trained with at AKA. He's trained at Extreme Couture. He's getting work everywhere to get better and better. He's lost to really good guys. I mean, Nazarene Ivanov is about to fight for a title. Jack Hermanson has been number 5 in the world for what feels like 10 years. Gerald Mearshart has the most submission wins in middleweight history. Derek Brunson fought for a title. Yeah, those are all good losses. Like they're all very, very good. Anthony Fluffy Hernandez is a win away from fighting for the title. So he's never lost to a bad fighter that was not championship worthy. You know, Jaron Mearshot isn't, but he's never lost to a bad fighter. But he's never beat a good one. AJ Dobinson's not good. Dalcha Lugiambula is not good. Brad Tavares is all right, but he's nothing crazy. Charles Bird, not good. Jack Marshman, Darren Stewart. He's beaten absolute cans and he's lost to top 5. That's where he's at. That's what we're doing here. And luckily this time he's fighting Dylan Bucka, who definitely is closer to the can era. Only problem with Edmund. Edmund could be a top 10 guy if he had cardio. His cardio is ass. He gasses out. GM3, he was winning, and then he gassed out. Derek Brunson, he was winning, then he gassed out. Jack Hermanson, he was winning, then he gassed out. And it's bad. He's done everything he can to improve his cardio. It just sucks. It's not. He doesn't have it. It's not in you, bro. So he's got to go out there and get a quick finish. Can he do that against Dylan Budka? Yeah, absolutely. And the good thing is Dylan Budka also has bad cardio. So there's a good chance Edmund fades this fight. But he's fighting another fading fighter. So let's just hope Edmund gets the job done. He's the better fighter everywhere. It's a matter of whose cardio holds up, whose durability holds up. And they're both terrible, so I'll just trust the talent. So the pick is going to be Edmund again as a huge favorite at minus 390. The bet would be Edmund at minus 390. But I'm hesitant to parlay because it's Edmund fucking Shabazian. Next fight of the night is a co-main event, and our boy Yusuf Zalal is finally getting some respect. He's a minus 450, too much respect. Favorite over Calvin Cater, former title challenger at plus 325. Over 2.5 minus 250, under 2.5 plus 185. Let's start with our boy Yusuf. Good everywhere. He's not a raw dogger, but he is friends with Brandon Royval and trained with him while they were all still at Factory X Muay Thai. I believe he's still at Factory X Muay Thai with like David Onama currently, Chris Gutierrez. He has good striking. He's predominantly a striker. He started off as a kickboxer. Really good jujitsu. It was always good, but he's kicked it up a notch as of late. And same with his wrestling. His wrestling, he's always been able to mix in, but he's essentially just packed on muscle. He was in the UFC when he was super young. I think he was like 22, 23 years old. Was winning a ton of times. He was one of those COVID darlings, and then he fell on hard times, and he lost 3 fights in a row and had a draw, and the UFC caught him, knowing he was super young and could come back. Um, he lost to, but there's asterisks next to all of them. His first loss, he was a favorite over the current champion, Ilya Taporia. It was Ilya's first fight. No one knew who good. No one knew how good Ilya was, so no fault in losing to the champ. And he didn't get finished like everyone else. Max, Volk, Arnold, or not Arnold Allen, Bryce Mitchell. All these guys got finished. He went a decision with Taporia. Sung Woo Choi is a massive, massive human being, and he took the fight on short notice and lost. Sean Woodson is a massive, massive human being. He was there for Chris Gutierrez to corner him. Um, Sean Woodson lost his opponent, and literally Yusuf on a week's notice was like, well, I'll be there cornering. I'll just fight instead. And took a fight on 1 week's notice and lost a split decision. It was a close fight. Then he decided he's dropping down to 135 and he fought Damon Blackshear, who's very good. No one knew who he was. It was Damon's debut. Went to a draw and the UFC cuts him. They're like, that's 4 in a row without wins. You got to go. You're too young, too talented. Get some work on the regional scene. And that's what he did. He went out there and got a million finishes. He was a decisionator initially. He went out there and started just busting fools, got his confidence up, came back, and has had 3 straight submissions in the UFC. His confidence is at an all time high. 59% takedown defense is his biggest weakness. But Calvin Cater is not someone that's going to exploit that. Calvin Cater is a high school wrestler initially, fell in love with boxing, and has predominantly struck his entire UFC tenure. And that's been a while. He's 36 years old. He's not young. He has good striking. Is it better than Zalal's? I wouldn't say it's better, but he definitely hits harder. He hits pretty decently hard. Zalal's never been knocked out, but he better mind his P's and Q's. Cater is pretty good volume. He's a little hittable himself, but part of that is that max fight skewing the numbers. His wrestling, again, he doesn't like to use it, but it is decent. His jiu-jitsu is not great, but he knows what's going on and he can stay safe. Level of competition's awesome. Compared to Yusuf's. Yusuf fought Ilya, and that was probably the highest point. Cater has fought Josh Emmett. He's fought for the title. He fought Max. Like he fought a lot of good fight. Aljo, and he has a 72% takedown defense, so Zalal can't just take him down like he's been doing recently. He has good cardio and he has good losses. Like Calvin Cater is a good fighter. The thing is, I think Yusuf's quicker. I think he's younger. He's definitely better on the ground. And when it comes to their wrestling, I don't know which one is better, but Yusuf just needs to be able to sprinkle it in there. And I think he can, and I think he will. I hate the odd at minus 450, not good odds, but the pick is Yusuf Zalal, and the bet is Yusuf Zalal. And that takes us to the main event. Again, if you haven't already, make sure you smash the like, give a follow on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky. The Stats and Stacks podcast is taking over, especially when we have a winning week. We have the main event. We have Jared Cannonier at plus 185 going up against Gregory Robocop Rodrigues at minus 225. Over 2.5 minus 105. Under 2.5 minus 125. Let's start with Gregory Rodrigues. Robocop is 32 years old. He has really good striking. He pressures forward. He has a ton of power. He can knock out anybody. He's very aggressive. Has world-class jiu-jitsu that he very seldomly uses. He has good wrestling, a ton of volume. He'll mix in takedowns here and there. Good level of competition. He has been wrestling a lot as of late. I'd said the world class stuff that he doesn't use. His last few fights he did. He did against Christian Leroy Duncan. It was just too easy to take him down. He wrestled against Dennis Tululian, but that was after he got knocked out by Bruno Ferreira, and that's his biggest problem, his chin. The dude only has 5 career losses, and I think they're all by knockout. Ferreira knocked him out. Jordan Williams was a diabetic welterweight. He should be fighting it, honestly, at lightweight. Knocked him out. Bruno Lopez, who's now in the UFC, knocked him out. And this guy won a split decision. So I've seen him rocked multiple times, and then I've seen him knocked out 4 times. It's his kryptonite, man. He's the definition. If you think of Glass Cannon, he's one of the first names I think of. He can knock out anyone at any point. He can submit anyone at any point. But anyone in the UFC can knock him out. If you find his chin, he will go out. And his cardio scares me. It's looked a lot better, like some of these other guys. Forgot who I was talking about earlier, where their cardio seemed to improve a little. So did RoboCop. He can go a hard 15, but this is his first 25-minute fight in the UFC, so it does sketch me out a little between his chin and his cardio. On the other side, we have Jared Cannonier, where I'm kind of sketched out about his chin as well. He took a vicious knockout just 6 months ago against Kyle Barallo, and part of the reason he keeps getting knocked out as of late is because he's 40 years old. The last two fights, he's been knocked out by young fighters because he's fucking 40 years old and he's feeling it. Angela Hill, she's aging like fine wine. Jared Cannonier, he was until about a year or two ago, and that chin is starting to go. The difference is he's also a glass cannon at this point in his career because he hits like an absolute truck. You'll hear them talk about he's one of only two men to have a knockout in three different weight classes, him and Conor McGregor, because he was at heavyweight when he came to the UFC. Then he dropped to light heavyweight, and then he dropped to middleweight, found his home, fought for the title. He's also at MMA Lab, just like Delgado, but in a higher weight class, obviously. But he'll be training with him, getting ready for this fight. He'll have a partner. He has good striking. Has a great level of competition. He throws a ton of volume. He throws with a ton of heat. He hits really, really hard. 62% takedown defense. You can't take him down. It's not a good marker. But he has a very, very, very good get up game. It's very hard to hold him down. With all that muscle, he does seemingly seem to have good cardio somehow. His jujitsu is not great at all, but again, he just pops back up and gets back to his feet. So here's the biggest thing with this fight. The obvious pick is RoboCop, and he is going to be my pick to win the fight. The concerns I have are his chin and the fact that he doesn't check leg kicks at all. I've never seen him check a leg kick, and Cannonier has finished guys with leg kicks. Like the dude loves his leg kicks, and he has a ton of power. So either one can knock out each other. Gregory, world class on the ground, could submit Jared Cannonier easily. Cannonier could leg kick Gregory to death and catch his chin or put him out with leg kicks because Gregory doesn't check. Either way, it looks like the under should probably hit. The fight doesn't go the distance, should probably hit. Because under 2.5 is minus 125. And you're really just picking a side. And if it's 50-50 because they can both finish each other, I'm going to side with Cannonier at plus 185. Maybe the 40-year-old has one more left in him, and I'm willing to take that chance. He keeps letting me down. I bet him against Imavov. I bet him against Barrio because he gave me a good line. They're doing it again, and my dumbass is going to do it again. I'm going to pick Gregory Robocop Rodrigues. I'm going to bet Jared Cannonier. And that is UFC Vegas 102. Not the greatest card in the world, but for an Apex card, it'll be fun. Some decent names on there. And every card is good when you're making money. Let's get after it.